This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking all our guests tonight. In hour number 1, I spoke with Deborah Green. Hour number 2, Andre Van Heerden and I talked about shadow governments. Hour number 3, Claudia Hare and I talked about communicating with your animals using telepathy. And my special guest this hour is William Murtha. He is the author of Dying for a Change. And William's website is www.williammurtha.com. That's WILLIAMMURTHA.com. William, having been or having a scientific background, how would you try to explain the events that you've gone through and the life-changing experiences that you've had?
Metamorphosis would be a good word.
That's an excellent word, and I wish I would have thought of it.
Because of my work within the Scientific and Medical Network, which was formed by a group of scientists who started to study and actually some experience these phenomenal, things that they had to really look at it in more detailed ways. I just, with my left brain background, pragmatic background, I'm just fascinated when you go into proper science. And there's a guy, one of Britain's top writers at the moment, a guy called Sebastian Faulks, who wrote the book Birdsong. He talks about this time that he was penning a new book, and he was in his study in London, and he had a few ideas there. And this is a guy that used to be the editor of the Times newspaper, one of Britain's top newspapers. So he's a pretty grounded guy. And he said he sat there and he had this voice just come into his head. And the voice said, "My name is Mike Engelby, and I've got a story to tell." And he thought he was going a bit mad, so he just went along with what he thought was his imagination. Anyway, he thought this story wasn't going to go anywhere. Because Birdsong took him 4 years. He'd been visiting the British Museum every day. And then he started to let the story just dictate to itself. And he just literally, like he said, he literally showed up every day. Anyway, this story, Engelby, finished really nicely. The story plot all tied up beautifully. And Sebastian Faulks said that it was just an incredible experience. He'd never, had something like that happen to him. And I just think there's countless examples of people experiencing the presence, what they call the third man factor. There's a book by a guy called John Gilger called The Third Man Factor. And it's great because it talks about all in history about the great people that have experienced this third man factor, a presence that they don't quite understand. I mean, Winston Churchill said it in his biography, Socrates. And these are just, and Ernest Shackleton, who was one of the great pioneers and explorers when they were dying and walking across the Antarctic, I think it was, on the expedition, they experienced this unseen presence that they said was with them, guiding them, helping them, and giving them inspiration.
William, I hate to do this, my friend, but you and I have just come to the end of tonight's show. William, we'll have you back on in the future. I'd love to talk to you more about this. But thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's been a great pleasure.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Rob.
Take care, sir. William Murtha has been my guest this hour. www.williammurtha.com. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. So until tomorrow night, my friends, take care of each other and always keep your eyes to the light.
For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating
keep your eyes to the sky and your
UFO.
heart to the light. Good night.
I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st Century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st Century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st Century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at www.drgibbswilliams.com.
Shamanism is recognized as a method to access the quantum level. Mastery of shamanic skills puts spiritual information and healing power into your hands. Path Home Shamanic Art School, a bonded Colorado certified occupational school, has met rigorous state standards, ensuring its director and instructors have the qualifications to teach the shamanic arts. Path Home offers its certification program in blocks of study. Block 1, a 5-day intensive, will be held in the beautiful mountain town of Coaldale, Colorado, October 13th through 18th. Registration deadline is September 12th. Experience journey trance, power animals, helping spirits, sacred space, and life purpose. Come discover your power. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, in the magical world of shamanism. Call 303-775-3431 or visit findyourpathhome.com.
With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. Exonation William Murtha is our very special guest this hour. He is a writer, philanthropist, and activist for issues related to personal, social, and global transformation. The father of 3 daughters, he lives close to the coast in Devon, a UK county, on the western fringes of Britain. He is a speaker and coordinator for the Southwest region of British-based Scientific and Medical Network, a forum which explores the frontiers of science, consciousness, and spirituality. And once again, his website is www.williammurtha.com. William, before your experience, when you were in those freezing waters, Did you believe in a higher power? Did you believe in God? And did you believe in near-death experiences?
Absolutely no way. I was probably about as much a left brain and pragmatic person that you could find, really, with my job, and there was just no time to give it any reflection or thought. And if it did, if I watched an occasional program for 5 minutes or read a paper, no, it wasn't on my radar at all, not at all.
Would you be able to share with us, if you wouldn't mind, the near-death experience that you did have?
Yeah, I mean, following on from what we said before the break, when I started to be washed out by the tide and the sun was going down, the hypothermia started to kick in very quickly, because April's very cold over here in the UK, and normally you're not meant to survive, so normally in about half an hour, but the cold started to sort of really get into my bones, and anyone who's experienced hypothermia, they will know what it feels like, and it just gradually over the next, what must have been about an hour, my senses began to sort of shut down, and my hearing started to go, and I remember right at the very end, I started to feel that all the cold and the pain was starting to subside, and I was actually starting to feel warm and starting to feel loved, and a great feeling, and I just knew in my mind that this wasn't good, and at that very sort of stage that all this sort of pain started to go, and I started feeling that most incredible loving feeling. That's when I started to have these weird out-of-body experiences where I remember the first time I looked up at a seagull that was on a cliff, and it just looked so majestic, and then the next thing I know, I'm sort of out of my body and living and looking at the world from the seagull's eyes, as if I'm living its consciousness, and then there was something else. There was the wind. I was feeling the wind the cold wind on my face, and I just got this incredible feeling that I could, I was looking down on my body, and I know it sounds, a lot of people have said this when they're on the operating theatre, but you can read it, but when it actually happens to you, it just blows your mind, and you think you're hallucinating, you think you're going crazy. And I can remember I kept pinching my just the flesh just below my elbow, because I just wanted to keep knowing that I was conscious and I wasn't dreaming, and I wasn't starting to go unconscious. And I just had these incredible feelings that I was a different consciousness. I was looking at life from different angle, and then all the pain started to subside, and then I got into this state of looking at these life reviews, or it wasn't a life review I had from start to finish, which I'd often occasionally read about. What I seemed to go through, I went through several occasions where I imagine the most emotional points of your life. That's both good and bad, and that's what I seemed to experience. It was bizarre, but only this time I seem to be feeling it and experiencing it there, as if it's more intense. I was more conscious. It was incredible.
William, other people that I've had the opportunity of talking to about their near-death experiences, including my own mother, who had double open-heart surgery within weeks because she caught an infection during one of the operations, or one of the valves malfunctioned. And God bless her. Thank the good Lord she's still with us today to share these stories. Tell of a deity that they either saw at the end of a tunnel, or that met them at the end of the tunnel, that basically said, it's not your time yet, and took them back, or turned them around and sent them back down the tunnel. Did this happen to you?
No, I felt a bit cheated, actually, Rob. Because you read about these things, and then when it's actually happening to you, I felt that I was being cheated.
Oh gosh.
But one of the visions that was very profound that I remember, and I always talk about today, is I was knocked down as a child at 11 years old. I ran across the road, and it was something that I'd always remembered. And one of these visions, one of these reruns, I call it, was played back to me when I was in the water as part of this mini life review. And I was rerunning the whole thing through again. I was running across the road, and I turned, and I could see the car just about hit me, and, you know, I could feel myself on the ground, semi-conscious, and thinking I've died, and went through the whole process with the ambulance coming, and they're trying to start my heart, and then that vision went, and the next vision came, and I thought it was going to be another part of my life, but this was even more bizarre. It was as if I had to see the whole thing from the driver, the woman who was driving the car that hit me in the road. I had to see the whole thing from her eyes. And what I can remember looking down, I was confused at first. I was looking down, I was driving. Bearing in mind I'd never driven before, you know, as an 11-year-old.
Right.
I'm looking down, I can see the painted nails on the steering wheel, and I focus and look ahead, and I can see myself in the road running across, and I can see, you know, I can feel all the feelings and all the emotions of sort of stress in the woman's body as I hit myself in, you know, as the 11-year-old boy, and then I crash into the side, and I'm shaking, and I can look, and all my tights are ripped, and you know, I stagger out the car and fall to the ground and cut on my knees as this woman, and it was bizarre. It was just, you know, I saw the whole thing again, but no, I didn't have the tunnel and the white light, but, you know, these were equally bizarre,
Wow.
you know, experiences.
Tell me, what were you wearing that day?
What, as an 11-year-old?
No, the day that you were swept out to sea.
Oh, the day I was swept in, it was,
Yeah.
I had a fleece on because it was cold, I had a jogging pants on and trainers, and yeah, I just, you know, I was wrapped up quite warm, and it was, you know, luckily it was, because, you know, as a lot of medical people said afterwards, if you didn't have that on, there's no way you would have survived. And it was just bizarre that when I was in the water, and at the time, literally a few minutes after I got sucked into the water, I can remember that one of the first bizarre things that happened, I went to try and I kicked my trainers off, and one of the first things I tried to do was take my fleece off in the water, which was quite hard, as you can imagine. And just as I was starting to get one elbow out, I heard this really powerful, authoritative voice say no. And I thought, oh, what was this? And I just carried on. And then this voice, which was not my usual voice in the head, came through and just said, no, leave the fleece on. And it frightened me to such an extent that I just did as I was told, and left the fleece on. But, you know, that first bizarre thing happened within a few first minutes.
Who do you think that voice was?
Oh, I mean, we've all got our own interpretations. I mean, some could say God, some could say higher presence, soul, spirit, divine. I mean, I still can't quite get a handle on what I want to give it as. Perhaps I don't have to give it an identity, but it was something.
In your book, you mentioned the 1 in a billion miracle that led to your dramatic rescue while you were out to sea freezing. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, I mean, after I'd had all these visions and this rerun, and the final vision I had was in my hallway at home, and where I actually I was looking at the hallway at my wife and my 2 children, and the door had gone, and there was some police were knocking on the door, and the police were saying, Mrs. Murtha, your his body's been found down on the beach. This was apparently a week after the event, and I just realised that first of all, I thought I was actually dead, and I'm witnessing what is happening afterwards, and this, you know, that was the strange thing. But it's hard to sort of look back now, but at that time, after the accident, or after I've gone through all the visions, I started to do something that I'd never ever done in my life, and I started in the water to pray. Now, this is someone who was a devout atheist, and I just looked up at this vision, and there was a light, and I just prayed to someone. I couldn't even make out if it was male or female, and I just prayed that this person could see me, and I thought nothing more of it. And anyway, a few minutes later, I heard a voice shouting from the quayside, and a guy was waving, and he managed to call the rescue, and they managed after half an hour to gradually get me out and bring the temperature up, and the hospital managed to help me survive. But on the next day, all the newspapers started to arrive at my home, and I just began to wonder what was happening, why the story was so bizarre. And they started to tell me this story about the guy that spotted me had seen me with a telescope. And what was even more incredible was that the telescope had been borrowed that very same afternoon by the guy who had spotted me.
Stand by, William. We've got to take a commercial break with the news. X Zone Nation, William Murtha is our very special guest. www.williammurtha.com. We'll be back on the other side with more of this truly amazing story as the X Zone continues right here from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
It was a terrifying experience.
I thought we was going to go to jail for murder.
That day, we were a little behind, so we worked until it was starting to get dark.
We loaded up the equipment and hadn't driven very far when we caught glimmers of this glow coming through the trees. I urged Mike to hurry up and get up there.
Travis had the door open before we even stopped. As he got closer, I heard the sound.
One of the guys said, "You feel that?"
I really panicked then.
I told him, "Get the hell out of here."
It didn't come directly to me, it came to a deputy sheriff.
Three of us volunteered right away to tell him what had happened.
Sheriff Gillespie definitely didn't believe it.
He says that we better be certain because we can get in a lot of trouble.
When we went to search the next day, they split us up, and the whole time the deputies asked me, if you just tell us where the body is, we can all go home and get this over with.
We're talking about 100 people combing through the wooded area. Nothing turns up.
All week long, I've been hearing they're going to set it up to make you guys look guilty.
We're a rough-looking bunch then. Some of us have been in trouble with the law before.
And y'all ain't never going to come out of that jailhouse.
We couldn't get out.
I tried to sneak out the back door the day of the polygraph test. I was scared to death.
On top of that, you have media.
I literally would be on 2 telephones at the same time.
We've even got some cooks in here now that's coming in and out to see the freak show, as they call it.
Everyone descends.
I just wasn't going to stand there and listen to it anymore.
Granny says, "This is Travis. I'm back. I need help." When I did hear that he had been returned, it was almost as unbelievable as the original thing.
I just looked at my mom and says, "I told you we didn't kill him."
Travis Walton reappeared after several days with a bizarre story about a ride in an unidentified flying object.
People were desperate to explain it away.
Why are you sticking up with Travis for all this time? You know this really didn't happen.
What happened to Travis after we took off in that truck, I can't tell you.
I hated Travis for a long time after this. My whole world just tore up.
But I believe every word Travis said about it. He's never lied to me about nothing.
It's a net negative. We lost our jobs in the immediate aftermath.
And now you're not able to talk about it with anyone because you know that they're going to laugh at you, they're going to look at you like you're crazy.
But if you don't come out and tell your story, somebody else is going to tell it for you.
There's a degree of responsibility. Certainly I have to accept the bad. If I can direct what's happened in a way that I can make something good happen in the world, I'm looking for it.
Order your copy of Travis, The True Story of Travis Walton, today at www.traviswaltonthemovie.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Welcome back, everyone. William Murtha is our special guest. He is the author of Dying for Change. His website is www.williammurtha.com. That's WILLIAMMURTHA.com. And William, thank you for sharing your story with us here in the X Zone. You know, you and I were talking during the commercial break, and I've been doing this show for nearly 20 years now, and, you know, I've heard unusual stories about the bizarre, unexplainable events. Some of them are similar to what you have experienced. And I was sharing the near-death experiences that my very own mother had, and others who we've had the pleasure of having on the show have talked about. When and where did you finally when did you discover the courage to bring this stuff out into the open, and why did you decide to share it with the world?
Well, I mean, that is probably the hardest thing it took me as a devout skeptic, a devout atheist. You know, this experience happened, and I can remember my CEO, my managing directors, ringing me up the day after the accident, and it had all appeared in the national newspapers because they were, you know, the whole coincidence thing with the telescope was a good story, as you can imagine, and I can remember my managing director ringing up and saying, you can have as long as you want off, a few months. And I said, no, I'll be back to work on Wednesday. This was like the weekend. Because I just, you know, my mind didn't want to deal with all the conversation, the out-of-body experiences, the telescope, the whole thing. It was too much for me to take on board. You know, you can't change your consciousness overnight. And I think that's the same for a lot of people that have near deaths, and
That's right.
I can just remember thinking, I'm not going to do this. And I went back to work, went back to my drug-fueled, work-obsessed lifestyle, traveling around Europe, And it wasn't until sort of 18 months, 2 years later, when I'd taken a load of clients over to Amsterdam to watch a big soccer tournament. And I was in we'd been doing drink and drugs all weekend, and that sort of lifestyle, family was living at that time. I can remember being in the bar, and it was 3 a.m, and we'd been drinking for sort of 2 days non-constant. And I can remember sitting 3 or 4 o'clock in this sort of basement bar, and everyone else was there. It's one of those situations where you can be lonely, although there's people all around you. And I can remember this voice punching through, and it was as clear as the voice, the conversation I had in the water, and it was, William, what are you doing with your life? This is not who you are or where you're meant to be. And I can remember it was as if I just sobered up that absolute second. And the next day we went on the plane, and I was very quiet, and a lot of clients, my top clients, who spent millions of pounds with me, and my colleague, my best friend, they knew something was up. And then I just decided when I got back to Britain, I've got to start writing about it. And that was the beginning, really. Well,
the voice that you heard in the pub at 3 o'clock in the morning, was it the same voice that you heard while you were in the freezing waters off the coast?
Oh, absolutely. I think we all know that that voice that runs through our head, whether it's a negative thought or a condemning voice or a loving voice. But this was just different. This was just higher, more authoritative, and defined. It was Mal, but it was just there, and there was no. It was almost like my whole body shook when this came through. Just as in the water when it told me to leave the fleece coat on.
Mm-hmm. How has this experience, or the near-death experience, and the subsequent experience about having heard this voice, changed your life?
Oh, I mean, just immeasurably in every single way. I mean, straight away I stopped the drinking. I haven't given up drink completely, but I just have a very occasional social drink now. I stopped the drugs immediately. After that voice in the bar at 3 a.m. And I just started to put my life back on track. And, with the writing, which then became a cathartic process of healing and reflection. And I basically, after that voice in the bar, I just decided to really start healing and reflecting on what the whole thing, the immensity of everything that had happened. And I finally had the courage to face it, and I wasn't ready to start telling the world. I told a few close friends that I was writing the book, and I started to convey with them about what was in it, but that was about it for that stage. And I just gradually started to build up momentum through writing the book, and I was lucky to get together with a professional writing tutor. I was always afraid about going to someone with it, because you just wonder and worry that they're not going to believe you. Luckily, I'd found the most loving person that was a top writer in Scotland, and we got on really well together, and we put the whole thing. She was amazed, not just about the story, but the wisdom that started to come through, because I jogged all this wisdom down on notes after book after folder, and I'd amassed sort of dozens of folders of stuff that had all longhand. Of the wisdom and insight that come through to me about basically every question I'd ever asked about life, really, which was given to me in this conversation in the water that I had.
Why do you think you were chosen?
I think we're all chosen to a degree. I think in different ways and different times, and I just think that this story was where a lot, where my life was in '99. I think is where a lot of people's lives are today, just as the book has come out a few months ago. I think, why do events happen to all of us? I truly believe that they happen because, storytelling is a great way of teaching, and I just think my story of where my life was at that time, which was work obsessed, not really appreciating the good things in life, like you started the show with, looking at the smelling the roses. I'd lost that ability, that grace to look at life in a more wondrous way, and I think a lot of people where they're fixed on the mortgage and the loans and the debts and the, you know, the overwork. I think people lose sight of what the true meaning of life is, and you know, I think that's where my life was. So I think I was, you know, a story, like a lot of other people's stories, was ripe to pick, really.
The car accident that you had at the age of 11, do you now believe that it was the precursor to the events of 1999 when you were in the middle of when you were being swept out to sea?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the funny thing is, Rob, up until I had the accident at 34 years old in the water, I hadn't really given the immensity or the reflection of the story it's due at 11 years old. I sort of literally played football the next day when I was 11. I got knocked down by the car. I came out of hospital, and that was it. I'd never really given the poor woman whose life must have been changed after knocking a child down. I'd never given any thought to the fact I could have died. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think the 11-year-old accident happened, and I can remember the next day waking up and being something felt different. You know, when we don't quite, our bodies just don't feel the same, and there's a feeling, a sensation, and I just knew that there was something strange, different about me, and it was clarified and absolutely hammered home the very next evening when I woke up at 3-4 in the morning, which was, to me, that never happened. And I felt this really tight sensation in my chest, and I was sweating, and I felt nervous and sick. And I had nothing to be nervous or sick about. I was 11 years old. And I got up, and my mother was pacing up and down the hallway and waiting for my father, who was an alcoholic, to come home. I just suddenly started to realize, even at that age, that, oh my, this is, you know, and it happened night after night, and I'd always be waking up, and it was as if I was tuned in to my mother, and I started to feel her anxiety and her pain, and that was just incredible.
How did the experience, your near-death experience that you had in 1999, how did it affect your family, your immediate family, your wife?
Immediately, not too much, because I tended to sort of keep it all boxed up and get on with life. You know, like I said, I was back to work within 3 or 4 days. It didn't immensely change their lives because it didn't change mine. But where the big shift did come, when I started to open up and start to write after that trip to Amsterdam, where I heard that voice in the bar. And I come back, I think my wife could sense that, there had been a shift in me. A lot of friends made a comment, and I could feel it. You know, my outlook and my sort of morals and ethics and judgments started to radically, it wasn't small, it was a quantum shift. And on the back of that, my family, it was hard for them, because I think, you hear about people coming back from a near-death experience or a life-changing event, and suddenly they're no longer the same person. And that might be someone going off to war and coming back, or it might be, falling off a ridge on a mountain and then never being the same person again. And it is hard for your family. It's equally hard for them as it is for you to understand it.
Do you feel more in tune with life in the universe now than you did before?
Oh, quantum amount more, yeah. I mean, it's just, you start to... The accident at 11 gave me an appreciation that there's something beyond, that you do feel something and pick up something from not only other people but other things, nature, whatever is out there in life. The sad thing for me, because it happened so, it was such a quantum shift of consciousness then. I can remember moving away from London at 15 years old, and because I didn't really want to understand it all, which you don't at that age, I can remember moving down to Devon with my parents and using that event to actually put it all behind me. So I didn't want to know about picking up feelings from my mother. I didn't want to know about all this so-called sixth sensory feelings. So I actually started again at 15 and really went back into what I would call a normal mode, but really it was ignoring all my intuitive hits and sensitivities and these things that I should have really been paying attention to.
Do you fear death?
Oh, not at all now. No, I just I wouldn't say I welcome it, but I there's a great saying, isn't there, that death gives life great meaning, and I truly believe that when you talk to, it astounds me the amount of people. I think I saw a report in the USA alone. There's over 13 million people have experienced NDEs, near-death experiences, and I think nearly all of them, or the majority of them, in these reports from science institutions say that very few people no longer fear death.
You talk to people, you tell them your story, you know it's real. How do you deal with skepticism?
It used to bother me in the early days, but it doesn't now. I think everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I try to sort of be very open-minded and look at it from where I was 10, 15 years ago before the accident, and while I could have been a skeptic, I just think life has got so many more incredible, wondrous experiences and events than we ever really understand. And I think there's so much more going on than our perceived five senses. And I think as we're moving into these shifting times, I think more and more people are experiencing it. And the major thing is people having the courage to talk about it, because we do live, a lot of us live in society where, particularly in the West, where this stuff can be frowned upon and, talked about outside the status quo as if you're hallucinating or you're mad. But no, it doesn't bother me anymore. It's, I don't feel I've got to try and fight my corner. I think it's a stage of just telling your story, as everyone does, and then having the confidence and the courage to just accept others' opinions, that they're perhaps in a different place to where you are now.
William, please stand by. You and I have to take our final break. William Murtha is our special guest this hour, Exonation. He's the author of Dying for a Change. Visit his website, www.williammurtha.com. That's www.williammurtha.com. And once again, the name of his book is Dying for a Change. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X Zone continues, right here from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, in the X Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network and on the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Coming soon to the X-Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randle, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X-Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net. This is Kevin Randle. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com.
What happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. And welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Our toll-free worldwide telephone number is 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is William Murtha. And we're going to be talking to William about dying for a change, which is based on the book and the true account about his fight to survive hypothermia in the freezing waters off the coast of Britain. That's going to astound and astonish each one of you. At a critical time when his life was rapidly spiraling out of control, William was swept off his push bike and out to sea by a 20-foot freak wave. Drowning, losing consciousness, and convinced that this was the end, he relived many potential moments from his past and experienced a life-changing conversation with a higher presence. William's compelling talk is going to inspire those attending to come face-to-face with their highest, deepest fears about death and dying, and it challenges perceptions about emotions, life, God, miracles, and why we are here. Joining me now from the United Kingdom is William Murtha. And William, thank you very much for joining us tonight here on the X Zone.
Thank you very much, Rob. Good to be with you.
Nice talking to you, sir. Tell us a little bit about that day when you were swept out to sea.
Oh, how long have you got? It seems a long time ago now. It was back in 1999 when I had a big high-powered job for an organisation across Europe, and I was travelling, and like a lot of people today, I was burning myself out, and at that time I had this incredible experience. I used to, I live by the coast, and there's a long seawall close to where I live, and to sort of de-stress, I would go out in an evening for an hour, and on this one particular day, the sun was going down, and I was sort of pedaling along, gradually de-stressing, and this freak wave came from probably about 20 foot up and sort of sucked me in. And it was April, it was freezing cold, and it was getting dark, and I started to be sucked out, and the tide was sort of gradually taking me out further and further, and I thought that was it.
Looking back, do you think it was a freak wave, or do you think that wave was there in order to bring a message to you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, for the first few years, you think a lot about this, and you think, oh, these things just happen to people. But, as you talk to more and more, a friend of mine is one of the world's top researchers in Geneva, at the University of Geneva, Evelyn Valerino. She studies, and has studied for 30 years, near-death experiences, and it's just incredible the amount of synchronicities and coincidences that happen amongst people that report a near-death experience. So yeah, absolutely, that was there for a wake-up call for me, like it is a lot of people, I think.
William, please stand by. You and I have to take a commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. X Zone Nation, this hour is going to astonish you. It's going to get you to sit up and listen, and hopefully touch your life in such a way that you'll start to ask yourself, no, let me rephrase that. You're going to tell yourself, hold on here, I've got to take time to smell the roses. I like that analogy. I love flowers, and I do love roses. So in this society, we move too fast. We think too fast. Life just passes us by, and there are times when synchronicity, fate, whatever you want to call that deity, says in his own majestic or her own majestic way, you have to stop and smell the roses. This is the story we're going to be telling you over the next hour. My name is Rob McConnell, and this is the X Zone. My special guest this hour is William Murtha. His website is www.williammurtha.com. That's WILLIAMMURTHA.com. William and I will be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and the Talkstar Radio Network, and our growing family of broadcast affiliates and stations across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Australia, Asia, Africa, and Europe. Don't go away, we'll be back.
I tell my arms they'll hold someone.